Hello, students. Yes, you see a teddy bear, and you probably played with a teddy bear before, or you probably gotten a teddy bear for Christmas or for your birthday, or you might still have teddy bears on your bed. Anyway, you're saying, what does this have to do with U.S. history? What does a teddy bear have to do with U.S. history? I'm going to tell you why. The teddy bear was named for one of our most popular and influential U.S. presidents in American history. One of my favorite U.S. presidents. And his name is Theodore Roosevelt. Now, as a disclaimer, Teddy Roosevelt didn't like to be called Teddy. For some odd reason, he just didn't want to be called Teddy. But that name stuck with him. So I'm going to tell you the story behind why the teddy bear is named for him. Well, in 1902, Teddy Roosevelt, when he was president, went on a hunting trip to Mississippi. And people in his group hunted big game like deer, squirrel, bear, all types of woodland creatures. So Teddy Roosevelt, even though he was a great hunter, was very popular and well-known sportsman, very good with using a gun. So Teddy Roosevelt never got his big game. So his friends wanted to make him look good, and they captured a bear cub, and they tied it to a tree, and they told Teddy Roosevelt to shoot the bear. Being a good man and good sportsman that he was, he untied the bear. And because he was not a bragger, he was not a man puffed up with pride and trying to think he was all big and bad and trying to show off by capturing a big game, which is his bear. So word got out that Teddy Roosevelt rescued this bear, and a shop owner in New York City decided to create fluffy teddy bears and name him for Theodore Roosevelt. So he got notoriety for that. So that's a short story about why the teddy bear is named based on Theodore Roosevelt. That's how the teddy bear got his name. Now, I'm going to go through some information about his presidency, and I'm going to wrap it up as quick as I can. Teddy Roosevelt was the vice president of this man right here. His name is William McKinley. He was the 25th president of the United States, and William McKinley was the president during the Spanish-American War. He was the one who sent the USS Maine to Havana Harbor in Cuba to squell and protect American citizens in Cuba because the Cubans were revolting. So William McKinley got assassinated, and as vice president, Teddy Roosevelt had to take over as president. He was the 26th president of the United States, and he served from 1901 to 1909, so that's a period of 8 years. He belonged to the Republican Party, and previous to him becoming president of the United States, he served as a governor of New York, Secretary of the U.S. Navy, and of course I told you he was Vice President of the United States under William McKinley. He was the youngest man to ever become president. He was 42 years old when he became president. And he was a progressive U.S. president who pushed for reforms to break up large businesses called trusts. And a trust is like a monopoly, and a monopoly is where you have a situation where business drives out all the competition, and Teddy Roosevelt was against that. He believed in competition. He believed in lower prices and protecting the consumer. He was against child labor, so he pushed for child labor laws. We talked about that when we talked about industrialization. He was into protecting factory workers, and he pushed for food inspection laws to make sure our meat are protected, don't have drugs and chemicals and hazardous stuff in it. So he pushed for food inspection laws that we still have today. And he was big into protecting the environment. I think there's like 30,000 square miles of national parks that he pushed for when he became president. So he was a great outdoorsman. He cared about the environment. And he set aside lands in the U.S. for national parks. He was known as an outdoorsman and a great hunter. During the Spanish-American War, he gave up his job as a Navy secretary to lead the Rough Rider Regiment, which is U.S. cavalry, on the island of Cuba against the Spanish in 1898. So he served in a variety of roles before he became president. And he is also one of the presidents that's carved on Mount Rushmore, along with George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. and Franklin Roosevelt. Here's some important facts about Teddy Roosevelt and what he did when he was president. He expanded the Monroe Doctrine, which is a way to prevent European involvement in the affairs of Latin American countries. And Latin America is an area near our country that consists of Mexico all the way down to South America. So that area is Latin America. He had something called the Roosevelt Corollary. That's a hard word to say. And that said that it asserted that the United States' right to interfere in the economic matters of other nations in the Americas claimed that the United States' right to exercise international police power. And what that means is that the United States is going to help out our neighbors. Now, if somebody's going to bother your neighbor or somebody who lives near you, you're going to stand up for them. You're going to protect them. So countries that are around the United States, Teddy Roosevelt said that we need to protect them because they're our friends, they're our neighbors. So he pushed for that when he was president. One of his favorite proverbs is, or was, speak softly and carry a big stick. This means that when you deal with your enemies, you have to try to use calm approach, but if necessary, use force as a backup plan. So you use military force if necessary in dealing with your enemies or other countries. And you've heard the expression, actions speak louder than words. And he also advocated the big stick policy in building the Panama Canal. This is a 50-mile long canal that creates a faster trade route around South America. Roosevelt used the U.S. Navy to carry out his big stick policy. Teddy Roosevelt believed that it was necessary to protect countries that were our neighbors, friends, from being attacked and bothered by countries in Europe. Countries like England and France and Germany and Spain. He didn't want those countries in Europe to intervene with their neighbors that were in Mexico, Central America, Haiti, Cuba, Puerto Rico, countries in South America. And around this time of Teddy Roosevelt being president, the United States was a world power because we won the Spanish-American War. Teddy Roosevelt supported the Panamanian Revolt against Colombia, which helped Panama to victory. It led to the building of the Panama Canal, which opened in September 15th, 1915. The U.S. controlled the Panama Canal until 1999. All right, here's some maps of Latin America right here in this picture. And this is a picture and map of Panama. And the Panama Canal is right there. It's 50 miles long. And it provided a faster trade route between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. And that's going to play a big role in World War I and World War II when we're trying to ship goods and services, wartime goods and services, to our allies in Europe. So the Panama Canal. And this is a modern picture of the Panama Canal. It has locks and gates. It raises the water so ships can go through, and the wars will recede when ships have gone through it. And about 3 million pieces of cargo go through the Panama Canal, I think, in a day. So a lot of trade and commerce goes through the Panama Canal. And here's a political cartoon. You see Teddy Roosevelt right here. He's known with the big mustache and goggles and hat. And he has a cannon pointing towards the countries in Europe, telling them to stay out of the affairs of countries in Latin America. Remember, I told you that consists of Mexico, Cuba, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Central America, and South America. So those are our neighbors, and we don't want people getting involved with them economically, politically. So he's gonna use that big stick to lay the law down, to tell Europe and the European powers to stay out of our neighbor's business and stay out of our business. And here's another political cartoon of Teddy Roosevelt supporting the building of the Panama Canal. And this is one of my favorite political cartoons of all time. You see Teddy Roosevelt, all big and strong, and here's this bullwhip, but a billy club, and that's what police officers use, and that represents the big stick policy, which means that you use diplomacy or peaceful means first, but if necessary, you have to use the military to defend or to fight off your enemies, to fight off your enemies, excuse me. So the big stick diplomacy is what this bat represents. Here are the countries of Europe over here. And he's dressed like a policeman. So the United States became a police power during this time period when he was president. And we're like that today. We're a strong country that intervenes in other parts of the world to protect our allies. And here's another good picture that I feel like is very important. And Teddy Roosevelt was the first president to invite an African American to the White House. And this gentleman right here was influential leader and teacher and author Booker T. Washington. He stressed equality through the means of vocation, learning a skill, and trade. So him and Booker T. Washington were very good friends. And many people didn't like that at the time because you still had prejudicial and racist beliefs. And that's the way it was back then. People looked down at Teddy Roosevelt for inviting an African American to the White House. I think that was very important in regards to equality and race relations. Here's another picture of Teddy Roosevelt sitting with Booker T. Washington, Abraham Lincoln in the background. Equality, very significant there. That's a slide from somewhere else. So anyway, go back and listen to this again and answer the questions if you didn't get the information down the first time around. Thank you for listening and have a good day.